Hey guys, and welcome to a Total War Warhammer 3 Domination battle between myself, a Rubber Duck of War, leading the forces of Tzeentch, the most duck-like of all factions, up against CA's very own Nathan, aka Natwig, who is leading the bloodthirsty warriors of Khorne into action today. They've got some of the best hardcore elite infantry in the game. They are truly a terrifying force to oppose. So we're going to have to use some of Tzeentch's schemes and tactics to try to get the upper hand. So let's go through our starting builds here. We have a load of blue horrors and pink horrors mixed in on the flanks as well as the rear. These are kind of your bog standard units for Tzeentch, relatively cheap and cheerful, but can do a bucket ton of long range damage. Quite short range though, and a little bit squishy. That is kind of their counterpart today. Double Forsaken in the front. Forsaken relatively swift, which is why I like them quite a bit in this game mode. Speed is of the essence, of course, and moving towards objectives can be really nice. I'm hoping combined with the long range pressure, we may be able to go toe to toe with the Khorne infantry. Only time will tell though. Not many like to fight them in hand-to-hand combat. And up in the skies, we do have the two-headed duck himself, Mr. Fate Weaver, coming in with the majority of his items like usual. We have the Oracle of Eternity, gives that 44% damage resistance. We have Gaze of Fate, negative 40 melee attack and can't move. Lovely synergy with that. And Pendulum. We have the Void Pendulum, which is quite nice. You guys can pause and look through all of these if you want. But basically, we get a bucket ton of Winds of Magic for the most part. And the two spells we're bringing today is the Pendulum, which you've seen many times before in Warhammer 2 content nonetheless. And the Blue Fire of Tzeentch. Pretty good up against large combatants. Using that to snipe bloodthirsters out can be pretty deadly and effective. So our main battle plan is to advance to the center and then kind of kite outwards to the flanks and draw my opponent into a killing zone of long-range missiles. As for my opponent today, he is coming with Scarbrand the Exiled, which is a really freaking awesome model. Now, he does lack the mobility of your standard bloodthirster, simply due to the fact he cannot fly. You can see his wings are tattered and torn from where the Chaos Gods thought he was, getting a bit too big for his boots and had to knock him down a notch. He's very cool though, an absolute world beater in combat. I think there's only one more lord who can probably beat him one-on-one. He's coming with the Bellows of Endless Fury, which is pretty cool, a big fat breath attack. We have the Wrath of the Reaper, increasing base weapon damage and armor piercing, though he does go on a rampage, and Rage Embodied. Oh hell yeah, that's about as Khorne as you can get. And you can see all the effects there, which look pretty damn good. Looks like he does give rage to the enemy, so a nice little hex to take your enemy out of control. Would like to see that popped on some ranged units. In the main infantry core, we do have Chaos Warriors of Khorne, 2 units of them, and some Chaos Warriors of Khorne with halberds. These guys are all about blood for the blood god, bread for the bread throne. They destroy most other mid and light tier infantry. They are really world-class wrecking balls. Looks like my opponent is going for a bit of a flank overload on this right-hand side with some sneaky doggo play. We have double Chaos Warhounds as well as some Flesh Hounds of Khorne. Expecting to see them kind of whip around and down onto the objectives if at all possible. So without further ado, let's get this battle underway. You can see I'm splitting my force up a little bit. We have pink horrors and blue horrors can start wrapping their way around to this objective. A little bit risky sending them in without any combat troops, but hey, they're relatively cheap, so I'm hoping that we can get them around there, pin the enemy in with the blue horrors, and let the pink ones dish out the pain. Pink horrors are really lovely. Now, this is domination mode, as you can see by these flags in the middle. If you do not understand domination mode or want to figure out what it's all about, I do have a guide up. It came out a couple of days ago. Feel free to check it out if you want to get familiar with the game mode. But basically, we're going to be fighting over these objectives, spawning in troops, and it's just this nice, slow build-up to a massive, epic battle as more and more troops do start to flood the battlefield. Blue horrors as well as pink horrors getting ready to unleash hell upon the enemy. I'm moving forward with Fate Weaver. There is no threat to him at the moment, so I can kind of fly above my enemy. I say no threat. Big breath attack does come in. Luckily misses as I kind of swoop to the left and bomb dive underneath the fiery bellows of the mighty Scarbrand himself. Pink horrors and blue horrors going to start opening up. You can tell the two apart, obviously, by their long-range missiles. We're actually focusing down Scarbrand with the pink horrors, and they can do some really nice damage. Well, this is quite a classic play. You're going to be seeing quite a bit in the replays. A Gaze of Fate goes down on the Chaos Warriors. We'll then do a Pendulum along the line. Chaos do have a decent amount, though, of magic resistance, so though it was well placed and these guys were really pinned in close together, it did really good work. Nearly down to half HP, but it's quite a lot of winds of magic there. Scarbrand is absolutely on fire now. You can see the warp flames coming in, and I've gone really, really greedy. I've pushed in all my ranged troops to assassinate the enemy general, and I didn't spot these Chaos Warhounds. They whipped around that side really quickly and have jumped onto all my horrors. It's a disaster. So I summoned some Chaos Furies in, and even the Fate Weaver himself is going to have to get down and start jumping on these hounds, trying to get rid of them as quickly as possible. I instantly attempt to save the pink horrors because they, of course, do a little bit more expensive for one than the blue horrors. So hey, I'm thinking about that money, but likewise they do dish out more pain. Halberds starting to push through, and the Warriors of Khorne are beating down my Forsaken in the front, despite having already fought their way through a couple of Tzeentch troops, as well as being like harried and harassed by all of my beautiful little horrors here. Chaos Warriors of Khorne are just so good in melee. Now down on this side you can see we are going to be capturing this objective. We have about 7 seconds till the objectives are active. Blue Horrors going to start flanking around, and on the right hand side I have from Forsaken. So I've kind of given up a little bit on this middle fight early on and thought, you know what, I don't really want to fight Khorne one-on-one in a big bloodbath in the center, so I'm going to attempt to do as much damage as I can. Big Fat Pendulum once again aiming at those Chaos Warriors of Khorne with halberds. They've been not big fans at whatsoever. They've been hit by 2 of them already today. I'm going to try and rain some firepower onto my opponent, but I don't really want to fight for this middle spot. I think it's simply going to be too tough of a challenge against the forces of Khorne. Scarbrand just looks so vicious here in the middle, hacking, roaring, screaming, trying his best to get his troops forward. You can see my opponent has summoned some Bloodletters of Khorne onto the battlefield as well, and me moving in, but we're going to come in with another Fat Pendulum. I'm going to be catching out quite a few units here, and oh my god, Fate Weaver is so nasty with that, up to 48 kills already, followed up by some Furies coming in play. My opponent summoned some more Chaos Warriors to the battlefield, pushing for that mid-objective, as well as Flesh Hounds to hunt down the blue and pink horrors. I like that play quite a bit. I've been summoned onto the field now is some Blood Crushers of Khorne. These bad boys embody rock and roll, and they are riding dirty towards objective number 1. And I only have some pink horrors over here. I'm going to let you guys guess who wins in a fist fight between Blood Crushers of Khorne, demons born for blood and destruction, or some little pink guys who are here for a bit of a laugh. Blue Horror's also been jumped by the Flesh Hounds, and I'm in a pretty bad spot as far as the battle is going, but capture points wise, I have 2 capture points to the 1 of my opponent so far, and Khorne is not the swiftest faction. They have a lot of hounds, but the infantry is going to be slowly pushing towards my deployment zone. Now, this is a bold strategy coming in by my opponent today, because I can obviously reinforce this point a lot quicker than my opponent can get troops here, but if he can bottleneck me around my deployment zone, it is a nightmare trying to get out. He can capture all the objectives and just have a general whale of a time. You can see down here the pink horrors are falling back from Scarbrand. I do summon in some of the beautiful flatfish, which are also known as the Screamers of Tzeentch. They are anti-large, rather squishy though. So Scarbrand, he will take a lot of damage from them, but likewise he's going to bring the pain back. So I also summon some Mighty Knights to the battlefield to slam into enemy infantry, which is quite beat up at this point. I'm looking to try to break through as hard and quickly as possible and try and stem the tide, because I've been pushed all the way back to my deployment zone, which is certainly not where I want to be. Kara's Fate Weaver is still having a good time. He's just jumping Flesh Hounds, but Flesh Hounds are certainly no joke, and they can turn and slap him up. Fate Weaver is not a good melee combatant. These standard Tzeentch Created Demons are, but Fate Weaver is a little bit more niche in the fact that, hey, he's all about the magic, and he's so freaking good at it, but it does mean that he is going to suffer in those melee fights because of it. Pink Horrors are going down here, so we have our beautiful Flatfish up against the Blood Crushers. We will be starting to lose the objective, however, despite both of us having units here. My guys are flies, and flies cannot interact with objectives in any way. You can't contest them, can't capture them. We're doing a decent job up against the Blood Crushers, but a real inspired pick there coming in from Nathan as well. Let's get some Chaos Warhounds in just to cap that objective up nice and quickly. Fate Weaver's running around. I got him down on the ground, and I'm really struggling to get him back up in the sky. The Flesh Hounds, as well as this pesky cultist of Khorne, are just harassing me. Oh, and my shield's gone. More hounds coming in. My lord is in big troubles, and I am starting to lose the objectives. I do have a bit of an early lead. You can see back in my deployment zone, I am just launching as many blue horrors as I possibly can onto the battlefield. They're cheap, and they have that range superiority. So we have the Screamers pinning the enemy in place, and we are lighting them on fire. The voice acting, by the way, for the horrors is hilarious. Hopefully we get to hear some over the course of the battle. I'm going to be doing a lot of live streams, of course, on release, so we get to hear all the voice acting of people, and blue horrors are hilarious. They're just screaming for Tzeentch constantly and going mental. Now, Scarbrand looks very low. It's been a kind of sacrificial sense. He could have pulled him out by now and perhaps kind of withdrawn him from the battlefield a little bit, but instead has decided to go right up in my face, and this is my deployment zone. I am so stuffed back in, desperately trying to deal with Scarbrand and use units where I can. Now, if your opponent does pin you in place, I do have other, of course, deployment zones on the flanks, so it's not like you were ever completely stuck, but it certainly is hard to get your troops out from underneath your feet almost, and I'm just desperately trying to drag down the exiled one. He's down to just 1,000 HP, but it's been a big pain in my butt. We also have Chaos Warriors pushing forward, but in the distance, luckily my Chaos Knights have been able to push through. Big fat pendulums coming in once again by Fate Weaver, but he's been stuck on the ground for an absolute eternity here, not being able to get up into the sky. 75 kills, and I need him back in the game because I am once again 2 for 1 down. Oh no, I'm actually only 1 point down at the moment. This one is being contested. Looks like the Blood Crushers didn't sit on the objective fully, and now they are slowly starting to cap it. Cavalry captures objectives way slower than infantry though, so that is certainly good news for me there. I think we're trying to be doing some sneaky spells here, perhaps to escape. No, we're just trying to pull back, but my opponent's not having it whatsoever. Exalted Bloodletters Khorne have been summoned onto the battlefield. Exalted Bloodletters are freaking awesome. Massive armor-piercing anti-infantry, but that AP means they're a good utility unit, also good for taking down cavalry, and our cavalry is getting shredded, as you can see. So to counterpunch this, I'm going to be using one of my faction's global abilities, which you can only use now and again. There's a bar which fills up, and it is to do a glorious rain of destruction from the sky. The warp is opened and down comes the beautiful colors of Tzeentch. We shred the Exalted Bloodletters. Unfortunately, of course, our Chaos Knights get caught by the friendly fire, but they were doomed anyway. We've not really been able to contest this middle point at all for the majority of the battle. In the back, though, we did eventually drag down the enemy general just by sheer weight of numbers of Blue Horrors as well as Chaos Furies, so I'm free once again to move out to different kind of parts of the battlefield. Fate Weaver is getting desperately low right now, but a big fat pendulum is enough to scare off double Chaos Warhounds, and it is just the one cultist hunting me down. I'm very low HP wise though, down to 1,160. Cultists, pretty decent duelists as well. You don't really want to mess around with them. Sort of anti-heroes has been popped. So what I'm doing is falling back to my Blue Horrors and trying to pull through them to get up into the skies once more. On the right-hand side, we have Forsaken holding this objective. My opponent is summoning Chaos Warriors of Khorne with dual weapons to come deal with them. My opponent will certainly win that engagement. We do pop a Gaze of Fate going down on this cultist, and finally, Fate Weaver, who was down on the ground all the way on the other side of the battlefield, is back up once more. We have Furies hunting down the Hounds, trying to force them off the battlefield. My opponent counters us by summoning a unit of Minotaurs of Khorne, and he's still trying to stick to this strategy of getting his units right up in my face. You can see he's got one unit of Chaos Warriors camping my spawn, and the Minotaurs pushing up, hoping to stem the tide of my reinforcements, knowing that he has the advantage at the moment. This objective is currently held by my opponent. Luckily, the Forsaken were able to come in here and deal with the Blood Crushers of Khorne, who is very beat up. They are circling back around, though. Very nice pick, though, up from my opponent. They've been a big thorn in my side. We do have some Flamers of Tzeentch coming in. Now, Flamers look like an anti-infantry unit. They are certainly anti-infantry, but they're anti-armor in general, and they can really bring the pain. Even to units like Blood Crushers, they apply the Warp Flame effect like most Tzeentch range units do, and they just roast that unit, and hopefully I'll be able to claim this objective back. You can see how much quicker I claimed it than my opponent because of the fact I'm infantry and not cavalry. The Minotaurs do slam into the Flames of Tzeentch. Going to be doing some pretty decent damage to them all round. I do have Screamers coming down. Screamers anti-large, but Minotaurs of Khorne are just so scary in general, and they're cleaving through my troops. I don't have much chance to get out here, unfortunately, and I feel like the entire game I felt very claustrophobic, like, oh my god, how can I pull out of this? Luckily, I am capturing the flank objectives. I decided to go against the norm of kind of going for that middle fight. I mean, like, no, I've got the speed on Khorne. I'm quite happy to go for those flank objectives. Chaos Warriors of Khorne being scared off now by the Chaos Furies, allowing the Forsaken to hold the line. We did come over here with Fate Weaver, though, drop a big fat pendulum down to ensure we won this fight, which was starting to look a little bit worrying. Loads of action going on this other side. Once again, we have Chaos Warriors of Khorne brought into the realms of existence, and Chaos Warhounds are bounding towards the battlefield. This is going to be very scary stuff, so we do manage to claim this objective, though, which is massive. I now have the 2-1 advantage, and I'm already up in tickets. It is first to 5,000, and I got Flamers on the battlefield. The Chaos Warriors of Khorne is certainly no joke, though. I've got some beat-up Forsaken here, and some Blue Horrors of Tzeentch. That's not going to go too well for me. You can hear the blood-curdling cries of Khorne as they crash into the Forsaken. Certainly going to rip and tear of those mighty double axes. And yeah, the Forsaken, they're not having the best of days. You can see their HP is just dripping off them right now as the kill count starts to rise for the Khornites. I do have a lot of blue horrors here, though, so hopefully we can swarm the objective and just hold it for as long as possible. Only need 1,000 more victory points, or victory tickets, whatever you want to call them, to win the day. Though there's more warhounds starting to pour in and jump on top of my flamers. Luckily, the flamers quite good at dealing with such units. In my deployment zone, I am now spawning a lot of flies to kind of get that mobility going around the battlefield, and the Minotaurs as well as Chaos Warriors. It was a bold strategy coming forward, but now they can't really get to the right places. We need to have them on this right objective and the left one. Imagine if there were some Minotaurs here. They would just decapitate the Forsaken, and there would be basically nothing I can do. But trying to stem the tide of reinforcements has kind of come at a cost of losing map control for the Warriors of Khorne. Chaos Furies, as well as Screamers, are floating across the battlefield. We've summoned a lot of flying units in recent days, and the Flamers is starting to pour down their shots now. Oh, look at that glorious slow-motion shot coming in onto the Warriors of Khorne. They can try to hold on, but what can men do against such reckless melting flesh? Maybe going to be using, once again, that big shot attack from my faction ability pool. Probably going to do more friendly fire than good, but hey, it looks so cool. I was like, I need to get these guys off this objective. I have to claim them and finish this game now, because I'm starting to really badly run out of troops. You can see I've got 1,000 supplies at the moment, so I can certainly summon some more in at the moment, but they won't be the most elite of elite. We do luckily drive away the Chaos Warriors of Khorne from this low ground, move our flamers in to help capture the objective, and we are so close right now to sealing the deal. It looks like the Minotaurs of Khorne and Chaos Warriors continuing to push my spawn as much as possible. Blue Horrors being sacrificed into the meat grinder. Minotaurs are up to 31 kills here. They look so freaking awesome. I really do prefer them than the basic Minotaurs. Basic Minotaurs are cool, don't get me wrong, but the horns on these guys, that is certainly some awesome stuff. We are going to bathe them with Holy Fire of Tzeentch, luckily, doing some big damage in. Flamers, though, are a little bit exposed and open here, so the Minotaurs could turn around and deal with them, but despite huge military presence, and I think dominance, it's fair to say, from Khorne, it looks like I am going to be able to win by holding 2 of the objectives there. Only the middle one, which I don't think we held at all for the entirety of the battle, but it didn't matter because we won those flank ones. And I think this is a really good showcase of, hey, there's this kind of a big idea right now that, okay, you fight for the middle objective, you both have one on the flank, and you try and, like, snipe the flank ones a little bit, and it's like whoever wins the middle is going to win. You don't have to do that, like, whatsoever. We contested the middle to start with, because I thought, hey, we can probably get some good poke damage, although my opponent sprung a really lovely hound trap and got a lot of my early units killed, but luckily, we were able to come back and just use our mobility on the map to claim those flank objectives, and it's so crucial to do that. My opponent either then has to spread out, and then, you know, give me the opportunity to jump in the middle, or kind of do this strategy, which I haven't seen many players do yet, so it's kind of cool to see it coming in here from my glorious opponent here, which is just push into my spawn and say, hey, you can keep summoning units, I'm going to carve them up, because Tzeentch units are not tanky at all. They're very squishy, very range focused, so if you can get a couple of Minotaurs, a couple of Warriors in their face when they spawn, there's almost nothing I can do to stop them, but luckily, we could just about squirm enough units out on those side spawns, and really, you know, dominate the flanks rather than the middle. But well played to Mr. Nathan of CA, aka Natwig, an absolute champ. If you ever meet him on Quick Battles or something, always say hello. Really lovely guy, and has been super useful in this kind of early access phase, doing a load of games with me, being an absolute chad as always. So well played to him, and well played to myself. I thought that was a nice game. This was quite early on in our kind of trial of games, so my tactics weren't quite as, you know, aren't quite as well molded, I suppose, as you've probably seen on Turin's channel when we were, like, doing tournament action and all that juicy stuff. But I'm still experimenting with all the factions. Do let me know what factions you would like to see. I am limited, of course, on what I can show you guys at the moment, but let me know what you're most hyped for, what you would like to see, any units you would like showcase, and I'll try and sneak them in if at all possible. Well played once again. Kara's Fate Weaver, 2,529 damage dealt. Those pendulums were so clutch to clear out the enemy infantry, because Tzeentch does struggle against all that infantry coming at them. You kind of got to somehow find a way to pin them in place and then obliterate them from range. That pendulum against Khorne, I think, is going to be quite crucial just to wiping out the enemy infantry. 118 kills is very nice stuff. And for my opponent, we had Scarbrand the Mighty, 138 kills on him, 1,036 damage dealt, being a gigantic distraction carnifex in my base, holding back hordes and hordes of my units for quite some time. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll delve into all the kills and stuff in just a second, but if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a big fat juicy thumbs up, subscribe as well to the channel for more content into the future, and comment down below what you thought of the battle. Bucket ton of links in the description to Twitch, Patreon, Discord, all that juicy stuff. Discord is where you can submit replays to me. I'm mainly going to be focusing on Warhammer 3 content from now on, but there still will be days when I do Warhammer 2 streams and Warhammer 2 videos on the build up to Game 3, so please do continue to send in replays to me. I will be casting some in the future. Once again, well played to the mighty forces of Khorne, but Tzeentch rules supreme. 69 kills. That is the most Slanesh fin of all time, but the Forsaken here. 69 kills, 1,300 value on them. 49 kills on the second unit. Pink Horrors are actually really good fun. We didn't utilize them to the best here. My opponent really neutered their effectiveness. They can do a lot of long-range damage. 700 on one unit, 140 on the other. The Blue Horrors were a little bit more numerous, and I spawned them multiple times. So 370 value, 777 and 893 isn't too bad. I don't think we got the Soul Grinder involved, unfortunately. We never summoned him. The Chaos Knights were quite nice, just to capture some of the objectives and push through, trying to use that mass when I was like, maybe I can fight for the middle. 103 kills is good, carved their way for a lot of enemies, but not the best damage dealt on them. Flamers weren't involved for too long, but they're going to be very big. I think we're going to see a lot of Flamers in action. They really help secure that left objective, so 560 and 380 value on them, though the second unit was only spawned at the very death there. Screamers of Tzeentch, 1,600 value on them is certainly tasty, 580 on the other units. Chaos Furies, 600 and 300 value apiece. And yeah, not too bad whatsoever. Scarbrand was relatively impressive. The blood-crazed infantry of Khorne, 550, 730, and 900 damage dealt. Just being a impassable block on that mid-center point. I just didn't want to push it. 1,000 value on the Flesh Hounds of Khorne, one of the best units in the game. So powerful, 137 kills on them. And even the Hounds, 300, 600 value is pretty impressive work. This pesky cultist of Khorne was a pain in my butt. 2,000 damage value on the... damage dealt on this little geezer. 139 kills, just hunting down my lord all day long. I quite like the Minotaur pick as well, coming in 46 kills, 1,200 damage dealt. I think just that initial push was great, but when it got to the late game and I had so many extra points, I needed to fall back and start dominating those objectives a bit more. The Blood Crushers were really good as well. 1.3k damage value on them, 44 kills. And Bloodletters did okay, as well did the Chaos Wars with dual weapons, but couldn't really get involved in the action fully. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.